If you've ever sat down to plan your week and ended up more overwhelmed than when you started, this video is for you. Maybe you've tried the planners, the apps, the color-coded calendars, the productivity systems that promise to change your life if you just follow the method correctly. And maybe some of them helped for a while, but eventually the same feeling crept back in. That low hum of too much to do, too little clarity, and not quite enough of you to go around. Here's what I want to offer you today. It's not your fault. And more importantly, the problem probably isn't your planning system. The problem is what's happening before you plan. Today, I'm walking you through the draft framework, a 5-step thinking system I created to help you move from that place of mental overload to something that feels a lot more like grounded clarity. Not by doing more, not by optimizing harder, but by learning to think before you plan. This isn't a productivity hack, it's a practice. And by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to use it. Let's start with something honest. Most of us don't have a productivity problem. We have a mental load problem. Think about what it actually feels like before you sit down to plan. There's the meeting you need to reschedule, the email you've been avoiding for 3 days, the creative project you care about deeply but keep pushing to next week, the thing your friend mentioned that you said you'd look into, the doctor's appointment, the idea that came to you at 2 a.m. that you didn't write down, the quiet guilt about the thing you said you'd do last month, all of it, living rent-free in your head, quietly draining your focus and energy before you've even opened your planner. And when we sit down to plan from that place, from the noise, we either write down too much and feel crushed by it, or we freeze entirely and don't write anything at all. Neither one moves us forward. What we need isn't a better list. We need a way to process what's in our heads before we try to organize it. That's exactly what the draft framework is designed to do. The draft framework stands for dump, refine, align, focus, and tend. And before I walk you through each step, I want to tell you why I chose the word draft specifically. A draft isn't finished. A draft isn't perfect. A draft is a first pass, a working version of something that you'll return to, revise, and reshape as you learn more. And I think that's exactly the right way to think about planning your life. We put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right, to have the perfect plan, the perfect week, the perfect balance. But life doesn't work that way. You are always in draft. And that's not a flaw. That's the creative process of being a person. This framework honors that. It doesn't ask you to have all the answers. It asks you to ask yourself the right questions, in the right order. And when you do that consistently, something shifts. The noise quiets. The path gets clearer. And you stop moving through your days reactively and start moving through them with intention. Let's go through each step. The first step is dump, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You get everything out of your head and onto the page. No order, no categories, no judgment about whether something is important enough to write down. If it's taking up space in your mind, it belongs on the page. Tasks, worries, ideas, things you've been meaning to do, things someone else asked you to do, that creative idea you've been sitting on, the conversation you're dreading, all of it. Here's why this matters. Your mind is not designed to be a storage system. It's designed to think, connect, create, and solve. When you ask it to hold everything at once, it can't do any of those things well. The dump is an act of release. You're giving your brain permission to let go of the job of remembering, so it can get back to the job of thinking. The reflective question for this step is simple. What's taking up space in my mind right now? Even the small, sticky things I keep remembering? Don't edit yourself here. The goal is volume, not clarity. Clarity comes later. Once everything is out, you move into the second step, refine. And this is where discernment begins. Look at what you've written. Not everything on that page deserves your energy. Some of it is genuinely actionable. Real tasks, real decisions, real things that belong to you. But some of it is noise, obligations you've absorbed from other people's expectations, fears that have disguised themselves as tasks, things you're holding on to out of habit or guilt, rather than genuine priority. The refined step asks you to start separating those two things. You might find it helpful to sort your dump into simple categories. What's actionable? What's a feeling or worry? What can be released entirely? What actually belongs to someone else? This step can feel uncomfortable because it asks you to be honest with yourself about what you're actually carrying versus what you've been telling yourself you need to carry. But that honesty is where the real relief lives. The reflective question here is, which of these actually require my energy, and which am I holding on to out of habit or obligation? After you've refined, you align. And this is the step that separates the draft framework from most productivity systems. Most systems ask, what do I need to do? Align asks something different. Does this reflect who I am and where I am right now? You take your refined list and you hold it up against your values. Your actual values, not the ones you think you should have, not the ones that look good on paper, but the ones that genuinely guide the life you're trying to build. And you ask, does this fit? Does this belong to this season of my life? Am I doing this because it's true to me, or because I'm trying to meet an expectation? Alignment isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what's right for you right now. And when your actions are aligned with your values, the work itself feels different. Less like a list to survive, more like a life being built. The reflective question, does this reflect the person I'm becoming, or the person I think I should be? From alignment, you move into focus. And this step is about zooming in. One of the most common sources of overwhelm is trying to see the whole staircase before you take the first step. We want the full plan, the complete picture, the guarantee that it's all going to work out before we begin. And in waiting for that certainty, we stay still. Focus asks you to let go of the full staircase and just find the next step. What's the one thing, one task, one decision, one conversation that would create the most clarity or momentum right now? Not this month, this week, maybe even today. This isn't about thinking small. It's about thinking clearly. A single focused action, taken consistently, builds more than 100 scattered intentions ever will. The reflective question, if I could only move one thing forward this week, what would feel most grounding? And the final step, the one I think gets overlooked the most, is tend. Tending is the practice of returning. Life shifts. Priorities evolve. The version of you who sat down with this framework last month isn't the same version sitting down with it today. What felt aligned then might not fit now. What felt urgent might have resolved itself. new things will have surfaced. Tending means you don't treat this as a one-time exercise. You come back to it weekly, monthly, after a hard season, after a big transition, after a period of busyness where you lost touch with yourself. You sit back down and you ask, what's changed? What needs revisiting? Where have I drifted? And where do I want to return? This is the step that makes the draft framework a practice rather than a task. It's not something you complete. It's something you grow with. The reflective question, what's changed since the last time I sat down with myself like this? Now that you know the 5 steps, let's talk about how to actually use this, because a framework only works if it fits your life. The most natural entry point for most people is a weekly practice. Sunday evening or Monday morning before the week begins. Set aside 10 to 15 minutes. Find somewhere quiet. Open a notebook or even just a notes app and move through the 5 steps in order. Dump everything. Refine what's real. Align with your values. Focus on your one next move. And take a moment to tend, to notice what's shifted since last week. You don't need a special planner or a formatted worksheet to do this, though those things can help. What you need is the intention to show up for yourself before the week shows up for you. Beyond the weekly practice, the draft framework is especially powerful during transitions. Starting a new job, ending a relationship, moving into a new season of life. After a period of burnout or creative block. These are the moments when the mental load is highest and the need for clarity is most urgent. That's exactly when draft does its best work. You can also use individual steps on their own. On a particularly overwhelming day, just do the dump. If you're feeling disconnected from your purpose, spend time in a line. If you know what you need to do but can't seem to start, sit with focus. The framework is modular. Use what you need when you need it. And one last thing I want to say about using this. Be gentle with yourself in the process. The draft framework isn't a test. There's no right answer, no perfect output. Some weeks, your dump will be 3 things. Some weeks, it'll be 3 pages. Some weeks, alignment will feel clear. Other weeks, it'll feel like a question you can't answer yet. That's okay. The practice isn't about getting it right. It's about staying connected to yourself. I want to take a moment to talk about why this framework actually works, because I think it's worth understanding the philosophy beneath it. Most productivity systems are built on the assumption that the problem is output, that if you could just do more, faster, with less friction, you'd feel better. And sometimes, yes, efficiency matters. But for most of the people I work with, the problem isn't that they're not doing enough. It's that they're doing things without clarity about why. They're busy, but they don't feel purposeful. They're productive, but they don't feel fulfilled. The draft framework is built on a different assumption. That clarity comes before action. That when you take the time to think intentionally, to process, to filter, to align, the actions that follow are not just more efficient, but more meaningful. You're not just getting things done, you're getting the right things done, for the right reasons, in a way that reflects who you actually are. That's what intentional productivity really means. Not a fuller schedule, a truer one. So here's where I want to leave you. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need the perfect system, or the perfect week, or the perfect version of yourself before you begin. You just need to sit down, get it out of your head, and take the next honest step. Dump what's in your mind. Refine what's real. Align with what matters. Focus on what's next. And tend to yourself along the way. That's the draft framework. It's not about doing more. It's about living with more intention. And you can start right now, today, with whatever you're carrying. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to save this video and come back to it the next time you feel scattered. Share it with someone who needs a little more clarity in their life. And if you want something tangible to take with you, I've created a free draft framework reference card. All 5 steps, all 5 reflective questions on one beautifully designed page you can print or keep on your desktop. The link to download it is in the description. Thank you for spending this time with me.